I'm here with Senta Plunkett, candidate for Wilmette Village President, a 6-year trustee working on her second term on the Wilmette Village Board. Senta, if you just want to start by a quick intro about who you are and why you're running for village president.
Sure. As you said, I've been on the board for 6 years now. I've been involved in this community since we moved here 17 years ago. My background is an attorney. I was an assistant corporation counsel for the city of Chicago, and I think that is probably why I was so interested in serving and volunteering in local government. About 12 years ago, after our third child was born, and I'd been volunteering in the schools, I served on executive board of Harper School. I really wanted to become more involved. And so I went on the Village of Wilmette website and I looked, and they had boards and commissions, and it said, this is how you volunteer. And I filled out a talent bank questionnaire, and I think I marked all the boxes. They all sounded interesting to me. And after waiting for a long time, which I'm sure other residents have experienced, I was appointed to the Historic Preservation Commission. And I really enjoyed my time there. I became chair. Later, I served on the Board of Police and Fire Commissioners, I think in part because of my background representing police officers and firefighters for the city of Chicago. And after kind of meeting staff and getting involved and thinking that I really wanted to have a greater role, I ran for village trustee. And it's been my second term now, and I just enjoy so much working with the board, working with staff, working with residents and community groups. I really feel that this is kind of like my job and what I love to do, and it might be the best job that doesn't pay. So I'm really excited to move forward in this, and I really hope that I have the opportunity.
And diving right into obviously been a challenging year for all local municipalities and all people, not just of Wilmette. But how would you grade or review Wilmette's response to the COVID-19 pandemic? And looking back, is there anything you would have done differently?
I think the Wilmet's response was immediate. It was comprehensive, and I think they did a great job. And I think what they first did was reach out to the community. Wilmette got involved with the park district, the schools, the faith communities. How do we get the word out to our residents? How do we check on our residents? They started the community caretaker program immediately. I think our fire department made 1,200 calls to seniors, checking on them, making sure that they were okay, that they were getting food and water and supplies and medicines, and hooking them up with the caretaker program if necessary. On a financial basis, we as a board got detailed financial reports monthly of where our budget was, where we're doing now, and here's some possible scenarios. And I think that was so important because we could track in real time the effects of COVID on our economy, and we were able to make decisions. We decided, yes, we were going to go forward with the neighborhood storage project, but that was a decision point that we made. We decided, yes, that we were going to go forward with the full road program, but we had that as a decision point. And the staff, they had cut I believe over $1 million in expenses. So really trying to be efficient. And I think our grants for businesses were very helpful. It was, we had 3 rounds of business grants for restaurants and retail, and then service businesses. We've heard that they were very appreciative. And that was kind of to try to help them get through to the next round of either statewide grants. The vaccine rollout has been frustrating for so many. And a lot of people have said, oh, if we only had a health department, or what happened to our health department. And alas, we never had a certified health department that would have been able to make decisions and would have been able to aid in the vaccines this go around. Our village staff and our fire department worked tirelessly with Cook County to get the New Trier vaccination site open. And that will hopefully be able to serve residents and not just frontline workers soon. But in terms of what we might do in the future, we might consider partnering with some neighboring communities on a regional health department. Would give us a little bit more control over our destiny. But I think in terms of what we did this go around with the communication, the e-news, reaching out to people, I think we did almost everything we could. And now we can evaluate, what avenues are open to us in the future.
Speaking of the future, we are still in the pandemic, and I know everyone's hopeful, and we will be moving out of it or emerging. What's left to do from a village government standpoint that you'll play an integral role, the board will?
Well, we would, practically speaking, we're still all meeting remotely. We need to see when we can actually meet in person. There's a number of factors to do for that. I think we have to decide where we're going to be going through the end of the pandemic and in a post-pandemic world, and what that looks like for our businesses, what that looks like for our residents, what that looks like transportation wise. For our businesses, retail had a challenge before the pandemic struck, and now it's really hard. We have retail vacancies that we would love to fill. It's not a one size fits all. There are some new businesses coming, and we're so excited to welcome them. But business development is going to be a very important factor as we work on coming through the pandemic. And I have more to talk about business development, so maybe you have another question, or just let me go on that. It's up to you.
There is a question about business development. So
okay, so I'll wait.
Good foresight. On a different topic, you're endorsed by many current and past village officials. Why is that important to you, and why should it be important to voters?
I think it's important. I'm gonna stop for a second. I'm especially honored to be endorsed by every trustee that I have worked with, every past trustee that I've worked with. And I think that's important because I have worked hard to earn their respect. And they know that I come prepared, and they know that I listen and that I understand. And the group of village leaders that endorses me, they span the political spectrum, and they span the demographic spectrum and the age spectrum. And I think what's important is that they know that I'm somebody that comes through. I don't have an agenda, but I'm willing to work hard, and I'm willing to listen. And they know that I've been dedicated to Wilmette since we moved here, and that I've been working for the past 12 years in village government, and that I work well with staff, that I work well with trustees, and that I work well with residents and community groups.
Joel is running, at least one of his pillars of his platform is community engagement and working with the community and talking to multiple regions of the community and types of people. Is that something that's also very important to you? And if so, can you give me some examples of how you've done that in the past?
I talk to community groups a lot. Especially lately, I've been talking to members of Go Green because I helped bring the sustainability plan to Wilmette. And between the Environmental and Energy Commission and Go Green and the village board, I think we need to talk to each other a lot. Ideas come up. I went to a Go Green Illinois meeting, and there was a great idea that I thought the village should publish in its e-news. I've been speaking with members of the Women's Club lately, how they are partnering with the community caretaker program. So I believe that there is a real push right now for people. They want to be involved. And I think especially after this pandemic, people find themselves at home. People find themselves really realizing what it means to be a part of a community, and they want more involvement. I'm really excited for the revitalized Housing and Human Relations Commission. The members spoke at the board. They were inspiring. And I think as a board, what we need to do is we need to make sure that the boards and commissions have meaningful work, and that we recognize their work. and that we also talk frequently to community groups that, may speak for, 100 or 200 residents at a time, to really, give us a sense of what the community is interested in.
Okay. Now moving on to the business development side. Um, there are there are a couple marquee vacancies. Carson's, Treasure Island come to mind. I'm sure you have more in mind, and also maybe some other areas that are underperforming. Say maybe Fourth and Linden. So how do we lift those areas up, and how do we fill those major vacancies?
Yeah, it's not easy. If it were easy, they would be full. But there has been ongoing talks constantly between the staff and the owners of Eden's Plaza. For one, the village hired a retail consultant to help learn how to attract national retailers, and in fact, they are meeting with national retailers for that space. I think for Eden's Plaza, patience is needed, but it is a prime space, and I am just crossing my fingers that some of these meetings with the national retailers will be fruitful, and that we will have really great. I mean, some of the names I'm hearing are great, so I just, I'm hoping that that's going to work. Green Bay Road, I know that the Imperial Motors dealer, they're in discussions right now with the reuse of that space. That would be fantastic, should that proceed. Currently in the Central District and Plaza del Lago, there are some new restaurants coming in, a new coffee shop, there's a new comic book store. So some of those vacancies have been or are currently being filled. As far as the downtown goes, I think once we finish the downtown streetscape program and the Central Street reconstruction, we're going to have this beautiful, vibrant downtown that I'm hoping will act as a magnet for new business. In terms of how we attract businesses, I think there's a few fold. There's what kind of incentives are we going to have? We are getting a bump from our online sales tax revenue, and that could be a significant bump. The law changed January 1st, and the online sales tax items purchased in Wilmette, that sales tax will go to Wilmette, including the home rule sales tax. So I think that we should use a portion of that to see how we can invest in our local businesses. The other thing is that we definitely do, some of the landlords, there's some tricky issues there, and it might be more economical for them not to, or they're finding it more economical not to actively look for tenants in their space. And there's some other measures that we can use to enforce existing ordinances to make sure that they are up to code, that they work on all those. I think those are called white elephant ordinances. So I think it's a multi-step approach. I'm more of a carrot than a stick kind of person. And I'm hoping that some incentives and marketing and a great new downtown will help. Fourth and Linden is a really tough area. And it has been, for people that I have spoken to, trustees that were on the board 20 years ago. I know that there was a little bit more life in Fourth and Linden, but it's a difficult, tricky area. And there's some landlord issues at Fourth and Linden too. So, we will keep working with that, but there's obviously a better use than vacancies for that. Maybe we relook at zoning and we zone that, some of those areas differently than they currently are.
Okay. It was on the November ballot, and it's currently at the committee level. So just, under the right conditions, do you support recreational cannabis sales in the village?
I am on the land use committee. We are looking at that right now. The November ballot was 56 in favor, 44 opposed. So generally, I think the majority are in favor. It's not a mandate. So right now, I think the people that are in favor obviously want the economic benefits from that, because you can purchase cannabis conveniently already. So the first meeting of the land use committee we had a couple of weeks ago, and we went through methodically every single commercial space we have in the village, and we looked at three factors. Is it close to residents and schools? How is the traffic? How is the parking? And by going through every single commercial district, we've pretty much narrowed it down to Eden's Plaza. And as I discussed with speaking about what's going on with Eden's Plaza and trying to attract national retailers, I would want to make sure that the discussions about cannabis fit into the overall plan for Eden's Plaza, that they are not driving retail at Eden's Plaza, but they would, if we eventually decide to go through that they would be complementing new retail at Eden's Plaza. And our next meeting of the Land Use Committee, which is in April, is going to specifically focus on Eden's Plaza. It's going to bring the owner of Eden's Plaza. It's going to bring stakeholders from the community, and it's hopefully going to bring professional commercial real estate consultants to give us a better idea of how that would fit in there. So can I give you an answer, yes or no, right now? I can't. If this is going to be something that we are considering in terms of economic development, then I want to make sure that it makes sense in terms of our overall goals for economic development.
I guess if it did make sense for that and checked all the boxes otherwise, it was in the perfect spot, it did everything else, like from a social aspect, do you support recreational cannabis sales in Wilmette?
The voters were in favor of it, and I would not go against the will of the voters if it checked every single box.
Every single box, right? Condition.
From a social point, I would want to hear from the neighbors and Loyola before I could give a complete answer to that.
Okay, fair enough. This is obviously a topic that seems to be a priority, so tell me if it is, but the topic of inclusivity and equitability in Wilmette. Is it a priority for the Wilmette Village Board? And if so, what are some measures that can make Wilmette a more inclusive community?
Right. I think it is a priority, and we spent a lot of this summer, obviously, the whole world watched a lot of the civil unrest this summer, but following that, we issued a statement on inclusivity, and I'm very proud of what we said. And the administration committee worked very hard to talk about our boards and commissions and revitalize the human relations and the housing commission. And when the new members of those commissions spoke at our board meeting, I was just really inspired by their talents and their dedication and that the work they're going to do. So I think, especially the new Human Relations Commission, they are going to start with holding, listening conferences and bringing groups of communities together. And I think that is going to be a good start. I also think that our police chief spoke. That's an ongoing conversation. I think our police officers are fantastic, and I think they have the training they need. It's not a big diverse pool of applicants that come to that. I know that from when I served on the police and fire board. That's something else to consider. We will also be discussing a minority business enterprise program on the board, and I think that just even the discussion of that and what that means and how would we attract minority businesses to Wilmette will, I think it'll be a really interesting discussion. So I think it's a priority of the board, and it sounds like we've made some good steps, and I just think it's going to be an ongoing conversation.
And this one's obviously for you, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, please. There has only been one other female village president.
Yes.
In Wilmette? Okay. Why is it important to you and to Wilmette to have a woman village president?
Yes, so Nancy Halifax was our first and only village president, and she's supported me, which I appreciate. I just think that we talk about different viewpoints. We talk about diversity. I think that it just, sometimes it brings a new viewpoint. Sometimes it brings a new way of doing things. I'm not running just because I'm a woman. I think that I've got a great background. I'm a lawyer and I was a trial lawyer and I've been serving in Wilmette, and I think my experience speaks for itself. But I also think that, I foresee, or I can imagine meetings just having a different feel. Maybe when a woman president is up there. And I hope, maybe not just because I'm a woman, but just because what I do, and I pride myself on being a listener and being a collaborator and building consensus, that we can have a village board meeting where people come and we tackle challenging issues, but that the tension level in the room is lowered, and that people feel that they are heard and understood, and that when they speak their 3 minutes, it's not just rote, but that we are really listening to them.
Kind of switching gears completely here to something a little more on the entertainment and amenity side. That's going to mark their 150th anniversary or birthday, whatever you want to call it. How do you feel the village should mark the occasion or should celebrate?
Well, you've heard about the sesquicentennial committee, and you got away with not having to say that.
Yeah, exactly.
They are started, and it sounds like a great group, and I've talked to a couple of them. We're not going to mark this with just one party, although certainly Wilmat could really use a good party right now. But I think it needs to be marked in a very meaningful way. I think there's going to be a series of events. They've talked about an art installation. Perhaps someone even mentioned a memorial to victims of COVID at the same time. But I think 150 years is a big deal. And I was, like a funny aside, I was talking to Vern Squires, who was a village president a long time ago, and he was telling me about the 100th celebration. And he said, "Were you there for that?" And I said, "No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't here for that one. Maybe I was around." But just to get that perspective of what that means is a milestone. I mean, it's a celebration, yes, but it's, where we've come and where we're going and where we want to be as a community. And again, the welcoming community, that is all part of that. And I think that is important, that when we are celebrating that everyone who lives here feels proud to be in Wilmette.
Well, I am out of questions that on that level. The last question I ask, I just want to, for a little bit of fun, I like to throw it in. Do you have a favorite meal at a Wilmette location?
Okay, so my family has been going to Depot Nuevo since they were young. And for whatever reason, imagine taking 3 kids to a restaurant and it can be chaos. And we've always had a wonderful experience there. We've always, like, the kids have been great. They've been chatting. Maybe it's the tortilla chips, and it keeps everyone busy from the start. But that's just always been a special place for the 5 of us. So
Nice.